Right. I think now we are continuing well with the project ET as we had talked about. So this is the project repo, and I just wanted to quickly take you through and to make you understand how the project is structured. There's a very extensive README, and you can just follow these steps to clone the project locally on your computer. But first, remember, before you do any of this, you have to fork the repo. You have to fork it to your profile. Basically, here you just come to fork the repo, and then it's gonna take some time, then ask you for the name, blah blah blah, and then create the repo. And then now this will be created on your profile. It's gonna take a second, and as you can see here, it's now reading it will be reading your profile and the project repo. And then once this is done, you just copy the clone link. I'm assuming you've already set up your environment. You've added SSH keys to your GitHub. If you haven't, you can just leave a comment, and then I'll show you how to do that. So once you've copied the link, you can just clone the repo locally on your computer. My environment is WSL on Windows 11. But I think if you're working on maybe Ubuntu, it will be fine. And yeah, so basically when you clone the project, this is what you get. These are the files you get. Yeah, we have a requirements.txt, we have a contributing.md. You can follow these steps to get the project up and running. So at the moment we are on sprint 2. Let me just go to the main project. At the moment we are on sprint 2. We are done with sprint 1. Of course, in sprint 1 we tried to set up the project, get some API endpoints working here. You can just follow these steps to get these API endpoints. And then we had a small challenge, sprint 1 challenge, and then now we are on sprint 2. Now as you can see on sprint 1, one folder is missing here. You may not have seen it, but you'll see once you go to sprint 2. Now on sprint 2 we have some goals to did you notice this one was not in sprint 1? It was added in sprint 2. So in sprint 2, these are our goals. So first we are to create a GitHub using we have to create a continuous integration pipeline using GitHub Actions, and that I just did a few minutes ago. We also have to add a pipeline that sends notifications to our Discord. If you are on the Discord server, you might have noticed in the updates channel, every activity on the project repo gets sent to the updates channel, so you can see what's going on. You can follow the conversations. So this pretty much done. We'll now be focusing on these two, creating the login page and creating the PostgreSQL database. Now if you have an issue, if you have something you need us to do in sprint 2, or you have an error or something, you can just come here and create an issue. Issues are basically things we are supposed to work on. This is where they are created. Now I want to explain something. Now we are now starting to sink deeper into DevOps and using the DevOps tool. And I think the pretty much first tool we've used is Git itself and GitHub. Now the second tool we've used is GitHub Actions, which basically sets up a continuous integration. Now the importance of a continuous integration is that you realize when you're working as a team, you have to make sure that each code that gets pushed to the main branch passes some integrity checks. Okay, I might see the changes and I might say, it's fine, it looks okay, and then I just match them to the main branch, but it might end up breaking the main branch in one way or another, that maybe there was an oversight in how I was reviewing the code. So that is the function of a continuous integration pipeline. So basically any code that gets pushed to the main branch has to pass a build test. I'm using Python 3 here. These are the steps. So basically what this does is takes the project, builds it, and then if it's okay, now it tells you it's okay with the green check mark. Of course, as you can see here, I tried a while ago and it failed. And when an action fails, you just have to go to the details and see why it failed. So it passes for Python version, just a minute, let me go back. So it passes for Python version 3.8 and 3.9. but on 3.7 it fails. And of course it's a very important skill to know how to read logs. So if I go deeper, I see that this is where it failed, installing the dependencies, and this is exactly where it failed. It says that it cannot get Python 4.21. What I realized is Django 4.2.1. Python 3.7 does not support Django 4.21. That is why the build failed here. So how I solved that is that I just let it run on Python 3.8, which is the default Python version, which I'm running on my computer. So once you have the project cloned locally on your computer, now you get all these files, and you might be wondering, what are all these files? Okay, basically the requirement.txt is where we add all the requirements that we've used for the project. It makes it easy when installing these requirements later. I'm not sure whether I updated that in the readme. I think I should update that somewhere. Okay, so you can do these, or you can just do pip install r requirements.txt. Now let's format it. Let's put a break in there. Okay, so there is no need for that. Once you've activated the virtual environment, you just run this and then everything goes well. And it's so important that I've made some changes here, because I'll show you how to push this repository, how to push this to push your changes. Yes, so Django is structured this way. You use apps to differentiate different functionalities of your apps. Like as you can see here, I have something called a blog and I have something called a meal generator. These are basically apps in Django, which you can just spin up one using the Django admin start app and then the name of the app. Now when you create a Django project with Django admin start project and then the project name, this file is what gets created first. Basically what this file is, it is the root, the parent. It's the entry point of your application. That's why you see we have a settings file here where we define our settings, where you even add the applications that you've installed. And then we have a URLs file where you define your routes. When you send any request to Django, this is where it will always start, and then it now branches to these files to look for the routes. That's pretty much it for this section. Now when you create an app, you have three very important files in Django REST framework. You have the models, which basically explain our database columns and schema, and that's what happens here. So you see we have a post model, which is basically like a table, and then we have created on which date, and then we have the title, the body, and the owner. And then after the models we have views. Now the work of the views is to get that data from the models. As you can see here, we are referring to the models, we are referring to the post model. Here we are referring to this. So it gets all that data, and that's what this means, and then it serves it to the URL. Now when you're using Django, this is okay, you wouldn't need this, but when you're using Django REST framework, you will need this, because the data that we are passing is in JSON format, and Django models on the surface does not understand JSON, and of course other front-end frameworks do not understand the data, the data format that Django REST framework processes. So that is why we have here, we have this, and as you can see we are referring to this class. Okay, now this one is placed here in the post serializer, you see it here. So what this does is it goes to it gets the data, as you can see here, the feeds, and then it converts them into a JSON format, so that the view now can pass that data through the URLs. Now where is that URL, or where is the routes? The routes are defined here. So as you can see, if you click the post, you get a list of all the posts, and then when you click on one post, you get the details of that post. So this is the workflow of let me just get a tool here, paint. What am I doing? Let me just get these two. So here's the workflow of Django. A user sends a request. The request gets handled by a view, and then the view gets that data from the models. Now this data comes in a format that Django models understand that format, but now the front-end frameworks do not understand that data. So that's why we have a middleman here, the serializers, which gets that data and converts it into a JSON format and then sends it to the view, and then the view sends that data back to the client. So basically that's the format. As you can see, even in another app like the mail generator, we have the models which defined our database schema, and then we have the views which gets that data and handles URLs, and then we have the serializers which converts our data into JSON format, and then we have the URLs which now handles the request. Now as you can see here, we are referring to a view, and it's so important to understand that in Django, views handle URL requests. So that is why we are referring to this here. So the first thing, when somebody sends this API request, Django will send that request to this view, and then that view processes that information from there. So those are the very important files that you have to familiarize yourself with at the moment. So we have the models, the views, the serializers, and the URLs. As we continue building, you'll realize that there is permissions.py, but don't worry about this, we'll get to that as we continue. Yes, so once you've done your changes and everything is working fine and you feel confident to push the repo, please make sure that you're working from the current repo that we are handling. You can do a git branch which will show you which repo you are. If you are not in the when you clone this repo, sprint 1 and sprint 2 might be hidden, so you can just do git branch and then and then this will show you all the repo that are in the project. So you can just wait, is it git checkout? Let's say for example sprint 1. What is it saying? Oh yeah, it's because now I'm on sprint 2 and some changes I've already made on sprint 2. But basically that's how you switch branches in Git. So just make sure you're working on the current branch that we are handling. If you are on sprint 3, make sure it's sprint 3 that is green. So after you've done with everything, you can just do a git add period. Period says add everything that is on this file, and then you can just do a git commit change to requirements.txt, then enter, and then once everything is committed, push origin sprint 2. We are on sprint 2, yes, push. Now it's going to take some time, of course. After you've pushed your changes to the branch that you want to push them to, Git will not automatically push those changes to the main branch. Let me just see if it will pop up here. Nothing pop up. Okay, so let me just go to the branch sprint 2, and then as you can see, it's one commit ahead. Okay, ideally it should pop up up there telling me that there are some changes and you can merge them, but I can just come here and create a pull request. Now assuming this is your repo, change to installing dependencies with requirements.txt. Always add comments to your pull request so that reviewers can understand what you did. Now once we do this, once we create a merge, come on, faster. Yes, it has been merged. Yes, now it has been merged to the main. Let's just see if those changes worked. I changed to requirements. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, so that's how you push your changes to the repo, and then it creates a pull request, and then a reviewer will see the pull request and merge those changes to the main branch. So yeah, basically that's the project. That's where we are, and do add those issues, do clone the repo, play around with it, and then let's see how it goes. Thank you.